All right, we're here on beautiful Mackinac Island at the Mackinac Policy Conference put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, and it's been a pretty active day so far today. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. Just after that, we were on the air from 5 to 10 this morning and had a ton of great interviews. We interviewed Governor Rick Snyder, talked to him about some of his priorities. He spoke yesterday a lot about STEM education, that's science, technology, education, and math. So we touched on that a little bit as well and talked about the bankruptcy issue and what they call the grand bargain that's was approved already by the House in the state legislature. Now it's waiting approval by the state Senate. It appears that they will pass that. Don't think a vote's coming down this week, but the governor is going to sign it if, of course, they do pass that. One of the sticking points might be the unions, the pensioners and the city retirees. They're not all that thrilled about some of the cuts that they'll have to be implemented if this grand bargain goes through. It's $195 million that the state is going to contribute to the city of Detroit that will go towards things like light removal. About 40,000 buildings in Detroit that Mayor Mike Duggan, who we also spoke to today, and guys like Dan Gilbert, the founder of Quicken Loans, and the Detroit Blight Task Force, really making it a priority to take down some of those buildings, and some of them that are rehabable, do that, invest money into these homes, and then turn around and let people live there, selling them. They're having these auctions where you're getting a remarkable deal. It's the Land Bank Authority, and they're putting on auctions. And I'll give you an example of why these are a good deal. In the city of Detroit, you have a neighborhood called, like, for example, the Boston Edison neighborhood. That's an area where people like Henry Ford used to live. So you've got these auto tycoons, these barons that used to live in this neighborhood in these mansions that have fallen, some of them, into disrepair, or some of them are still okay. But the crime in that area has overtaken that particular region, so people have moved out, and you have a lot of vacant homes that are sitting there. So the Detroit Land Bank Authority, they're coming in rehabbing, and some estimates show that they're spending, say, $500,000 to rehab the home, and then they're putting it on the auction block and maybe selling it for $100,000. So they're actually taking a hit, but these funds that are, for example, the Grand Bargain, there are some private donations that go into the city of Detroit, and mixed with some state money as well. So it'll go towards that, towards job training. There's a huge need in Michigan and in Detroit for engineers, and that's why one of the pillars of this policy conference has to do with engineering, science, technology, and math, because there is a gap, a skills gap for workers that need, these employers that need skilled workers. Remember, Detroit is the home of the auto industry, and the way cars are nowadays, with the technology that's involved, you need a really highly skilled workforce. So technology, engineering, math, science, that's a priority here. Also entrepreneurship, that's another big pillar here, along with impact. Entrepreneurship, how do we get these great minds to not only come up with ideas, but Governor Snyder talked about coming up with the ideas, but also implementing them. Also, we heard the CEO of Gallup, the polling company that goes around and does all the research, the big think tank, and they come out with all these numbers. He talked about, there are tons of great ideas out there, but they're not being implemented because there aren't enough people that have the mindset of an entrepreneur, meaning getting a strong business plan to implement these ideas. And he used a very interesting example. He talked about the internet and how the creator of the internet, it had been kind of sitting around for quite some time until somebody came along and said, well, that sounds like a good idea. Let's see if Congress can do that. And they took it up and got some good minds, and they implemented the internet, which at the time they thought, well, let's see if this goes anywhere. I don't know what you can do with such a thing called the internet. Obviously, it turned out to be a pretty good thing. In fact, I'm using the internet right now to show you this video. So a little bit long-winded here, but the bottom line, it's been a very interesting conference. Mike Duggan, spoke to him this morning, the mayor of Detroit, and it is a different feel here than it was last year. Last year at the policy conference, what was on the minds of a lot of people is if Detroit is going to go bankrupt. Well, they filed for bankruptcy last July after the policy conference, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh no, this is the end. It's come." But in fact, it spurred a lot of interest in Detroit, and now you have some capital investment coming in. I think capital investment in Michigan and in Detroit's up about 45%, which is huge. When you compare the recession and what's been going on. So we're getting a lot of good interviews. WWJ is. We're going to be back on the air again tomorrow, broadcasting live from Mackinac Island inside the Grand Hotel from 5 to 10 a.m. So if you can, listen in 5 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time on WWJ, and you can listen online at cbsdetroit.com. There's a little tab that you can click on to listen. It's if you have an app on your phone, it's the radio.com app, which is a CBS product. You can listen to us that way as well. Anyway, it's a pretty good time. The weather's been fantastic. You can see I'm kind of at the docks here where the ferries drop off passengers. We'll be getting back on this tomorrow about 1 o'clock in the afternoon to head back to the Lower Peninsula, and then going back down to the Detroit area. Back home. It's about a 4-hour drive, 3.5-hour drive. It depends. If Charlie Langton's driving, might get there in 3 hours. Anyway, have a great day. It's interesting policy conference this year. Optimism is up. People are excited about what's happening in Detroit. Still cautiously, I should say, excited. All right. We'll see you on WWJ. Take care.